Here's the thing about Marcus Webb. He had a talent for taking other people's work and making it look like his own idea all along. And in the conference room on the 14th floor of Halloran Media, he did it one time too many. The client, a sharp woman named Denise Castellano from Bright Path Financial, had sat down at that table and said, "I want to hear this from Priya. She's the one who understood what we needed." And Marcus, sitting 2 seats down, just smiled and said, "Absolutely, let me walk you through what we built." Not what Priya built. What we built. As if he'd touched a single slide. Priya Nair sat there in silence, watching 4 months of her work get narrated by a man who couldn't tell you the difference between a conversion funnel and a sales pitch. She didn't say a word. Not yet. But something was already turning in her, quiet and cold. And by the end of that meeting, Marcus Webb would understand exactly how much trouble he'd bought himself. Let's back up, though, because you need to understand how we got to that room. Priya had been at Halloran Media for 3 years, working in the strategy division under a director named Tom Reyes. She was good, the kind of good that gets you noticed by clients, but somehow never gets you promoted. Marcus had been there 5 years, in the same division, at the same level, and he had a gift for hovering near good work and absorbing the credit for it like a sponge. It started small, a slide deck Priya built for a pitch, and somehow in the follow-up email, Marcus was listed as a co-lead. A strategy memo she wrote late one night, and 2 weeks later Marcus presented his framework to the senior partners. Priya noticed, but she let it go, because that's what you do when you're trying to survive in a workplace like that. You pick your battles. But Bright Path Financial was not a small battle. Bright Path was a $42 million account, the biggest client Halloran Media had picked up in 2 years. And Denise Castellano, the VP running point on their side, had emailed Tom Reyes directly to ask for Priya by name because she'd worked with Priya on a smaller project the year before and trusted her completely. "I don't want a committee," Denise had written. "I want Priya running point on strategy. That's non-negotiable." Tom had forwarded that email to the whole team, including Marcus. Everyone saw it. Everyone knew this was Priya's project, front to back. So when the big pitch meeting rolled around, Priya spent 6 weeks building the strategy, audience segmentation, campaign architecture, a media plan that would have made her old professors proud. She stayed late. She rebuilt the deck twice after Denise gave notes. She earned every slide in that presentation. And then, the morning of the meeting, Tom got pulled into an emergency call with legal about an unrelated contract dispute. He texted Priya, "Can't make it, you've got this. You know the material better than anyone anyway." Which left Marcus in the room as the senior person on the team, technically outranking Priya by title, even though he'd contributed nothing but a few comments in the shared doc that mostly said things like, "Love this direction," and "Great work, team." The meeting started fine. Denise walked in, shook Priya's hand first, said, "I've been looking forward to this." Priya opened with a quick intro, and then Marcus, smooth, confident, absolutely shameless, leaned forward and said, "Let me jump in and walk everyone through the strategy, since I helped architect the core framework here." Priya's stomach dropped. She glanced at him, and he wouldn't meet her eyes. He just kept talking, flipping through her slides like they were his own, using phrases straight out of her private notes document, phrases she'd written to herself at midnight while everyone else had gone home. "So, what we did here," Marcus said, gesturing at the segmentation chart, "was really dig into the psychographic data, right? Because we felt like demographics alone weren't telling the full story." We felt. He hadn't felt anything. He'd read her summary email that morning on the elevator. She was almost sure of it. Denise's expression shifted, subtle, but Priya caught it. A slight furrow, a glance toward Priya, like she was waiting for her to jump back in. But every time Priya opened her mouth to speak, Marcus talked right over her, filling the space with confident nonsense, dressed up in her own language. By the time they got to the media spend recommendations, the part Priya had rebuilt from scratch twice at Denise's request, Marcus was fully in his element. "This is where I pushed the team to be more aggressive," he said. "I really felt like we were leaving money on the table with a conservative approach." That was the moment Priya realized this wasn't just rude. This was theft. happening in real time, in front of the one person who specifically asked for her by name. And Marcus knew it. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he was betting that Priya would sit there and take it, the way she always had. But this time, something in Denise Castellano's face told a different story. And later, Priya would find out just how much Denise had actually been paying attention. The meeting wrapped 40 minutes later, with polite nods and the usual closing lines. "This all sounds great. We'll be in touch," Denise said, gathering her folder. She shook Tom's absent hand in spirit, thanked the team, and left without much more warmth than that. Marcus practically strutted back to his desk. Priya sat in the empty conference room for a full minute after everyone left, just staring at the whiteboard, feeling that particular kind of anger that doesn't come out as tears or shouting. It just goes quiet and gets very, very organized. She thought about confronting Marcus right there. She thought about marching to Tom's office and unloading everything. But she'd tried variations of that before, in smaller ways, and it never landed. Marcus always had an answer. "I didn't mean it like that. I thought we were presenting as a team. I was just trying to make sure Denise felt confident in all of us, not just one person." He was good at sounding reasonable. That was part of the problem. So instead, Priya did something smarter. She opened her laptop and she started building a record. She went back through her sent folder and pulled up every email where she'd delivered work to Marcus or the team, timestamped with her name in the file properties. She pulled up the shared drive history, which, conveniently, stupidly on Marcus's part, showed exactly who had created and edited each file, right down to the login. She found the private notes document, the one with her midnight phrasing, the one Marcus had clearly lifted almost word for word, and she highlighted the matching language in 2 different colors, hers and his. It took her 2 hours. By the end, she had a folder that told a very clear story. This was her project, her strategy, her writing from day one. Marcus's fingerprints were nowhere in the actual creation of any of it. She didn't send it anywhere yet. She just sat on it. Because 2 days later, something happened that she hadn't expected at all. Denise Castellano called Tom Reyes directly and asked for a private follow-up call. Not with Marcus, with Priya. She specifically said she wants to speak with Priya alone, Tom told her, looking a little confused, but mostly relieved that whatever this was, it wasn't going to land on his desk. "Take the call," in the small room. Priya walked into that call with her stomach in knots, unsure what to expect. Denise didn't waste time. "I need to ask you something, and I want an honest answer," Denise said. "In Tuesday's meeting, who actually built that strategy? Because I've worked with a lot of agencies, Priya, and I know what a real strategist sounds like versus someone reciting talking points. Marcus was reciting." Priya took a breath. This was the moment. She could play it safe, protect the peace, say something vague about teamwork. Or she could tell the truth. "I built it," Priya said. "All of it. The segmentation, the campaign structure, the media plan you asked me to revise twice. Marcus reviewed a shared doc a few times. That's the extent of his involvement." There was a pause on the line. Then Denise said, "That's what I thought. I noticed he was using phrases that sounded like they'd been written by someone thinking out loud, not someone presenting confidently. It didn't match how you talked to me last year. I wanted to hear it from you before I said anything to your director." "I appreciate you asking," Priya said carefully. "I don't want this to blow up into something messy." "It's not going to be messy," Denise said. "It's going to be accurate. I requested you by name for a reason, and I don't appreciate being handed a puppet show instead. I'm going to talk to Tom. I just wanted to know I wasn't wrong about what I saw." Priya hung up the phone with her hands slightly shaking. Not from fear, from the strange, unfamiliar feeling of finally being believed. Denise didn't waste any time. That same afternoon, she emailed Tom Reyes directly, copying the head of the agency's client services division, a sharp, no-nonsense executive named Angela Ruiz, who did not tolerate account risk of any kind. The email was polite but unmistakably pointed. "I want to formally note that Priya Nair has been the sole architect of the Bright Path strategy from day one," Denise wrote. "Going forward, I'd like all future updates and calls to run through her directly. I also want to flag that in Tuesday's meeting, another team member represented significant portions of this work as his own contribution. Given the size of this account, I think it's worth understanding how that happened." Tom forwarded that email to Priya almost immediately with a short note. "We need to talk. Can you come by in 10 minutes?" Priya walked into Tom's office, already sensing the shift in the air. He looked uncomfortable, the way people look when they realize they've been careless with something valuable. "I should have been in that meeting," Tom said. "That's on me, but I need to understand what happened in there, because Denise Castellano does not send emails like this unless she's serious." Priya laid it out plainly. Not emotionally, just factually. She described what Marcus had said, almost verbatim. She pulled out her laptop and showed Tom the folder she'd built 2 days earlier. The file histories, the timestamps, the matching phrases between her private notes and Marcus's presentation. Tom scrolled through it in silence, his jaw getting tighter with every screen. He said, "What we did, and I pushed the team, about work he never touched," Tom said, more to himself than to her. "This isn't the first time I've heard something like this about him, is it?" "No," Priya said quietly. "It's not." That admission hung in the air for a second, heavier than anything else in the conversation, because it meant Tom already had a sense of Marcus's pattern and had let it slide before. "I need you to send me this folder," Tom said. "Everything. I'm bringing it to Angela." By the next morning, Marcus Webb still had no idea his world was about to fall apart. He walked in humming, grabbed his coffee, and stopped by Priya's desk with the same easy confidence he always had. "Good meeting yesterday, right?" he said. "I think we really landed that one together." Priya just looked at him. "We should talk later," she said, and went back to her screen, giving him absolutely nothing to work with. At 11 that morning, Marcus got a message from Angela Ruiz's assistant. "Angela would like to see you in her office at 11:30. He probably thought it was about the account win. He probably walked in expecting a compliment. Angela's office was clean, sharp-edged, the kind of space that made people sit up straighter without being told to. Tom was already there when Marcus walked in, along with a printed folder sitting squarely in the middle of the desk. "Sit down, Marcus," Angela said. He sat, still smiling slightly, still unaware. "I want to talk about Tuesday's meeting with Bright Path," Angela said. "Specifically, I want to talk about the strategy you presented as your own work." The smile faltered just slightly. "I mean, it was a team effort," Marcus said. "I was just presenting what we'd built together." Angela opened the folder and turned it around so he could see it. File creation dates, author metadata, time-stamped emails going back 6 weeks, all from Priya, all clearly showing original authorship. The color-coded comparison between Priya's private notes and Marcus's verbal presentation, nearly identical in places. "This doesn't look like a team effort," Angela said. "This looks like you reading someone else's work off a shared drive the morning of a client meeting and presenting it as your own thinking, in front of a client who specifically requested Priya by name." Marcus's face went through several colors. I contributed feedback throughout the process. Denise Castellano emailed us directly," Tom said, cutting him off. "She flagged this herself. She noticed the disconnect between what you said and what you actually understood. This isn't just an internal issue anymore, Marcus. This is a client-facing credibility problem on a $42 million account." There it was. The exact thing Marcus had built his entire career strategy around avoiding, being caught in front of the people who mattered, without a clever answer ready. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Marcus said, his voice tightening. "There's no misunderstanding," Angela said. "There's a pattern. Tom mentioned this isn't the first complaint about credit attribution involving you. We're going to need to look at your last 2 performance cycles as well, because if this has been happening on other accounts, we have a much bigger problem than one meeting." Marcus tried one more angle, the one that had always worked before. "Priya and I work well together. I don't think she'd want this to turn into something bigger than it needs to be." "I already spoke with Priya," Tom said. "She didn't bring this to us. Denise did. Priya just told the truth when we asked her directly." That detail seemed to land harder than anything else. Marcus wasn't being taken down by an angry coworker with an agenda. He was being taken down by his own performance, witnessed by a client sharp enough to catch it, and confirmed by a paper trail he never bothered to think twice about, because he never imagined anyone would check. The meeting ended with Angela laying out next steps in a tone that left no room for negotiation. Marcus was being removed from the BrightPath account effective immediately. His access to related files was being restricted while they reviewed prior projects for similar issues, and he was being placed on a formal performance review, the kind that companies use as a polite runway toward an exit, not a rehabilitation. Priya, meanwhile, was formally named lead strategist on the account, with direct client contact, a title bump, and a detail she found almost funny given how it started: a raise that put her salary above Marcus's for the first time since she'd joined the company. Word travels fast in an office that size. By early afternoon, people were doing that thing where they suddenly get very busy walking past a certain desk just to see the expression on Marcus's face. He sat there for the rest of the day, answering emails in short, clipped sentences, avoiding eye contact with basically everyone. Priya didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She just got back to work because she finally had the thing she'd wanted all along. Not revenge, not really, just to be seen accurately for what she actually built. 3 weeks later, Priya led her first solo client call with Denise Castellano, no Marcus in sight, no one talking over her. Denise opened the call with, "Good, now we're getting somewhere," and Priya almost laughed because it was the first time in a long time that a meeting had started exactly the way it should have. Marcus lasted about 7 more weeks before he resigned to pursue other opportunities, which everyone in the office understood to mean he'd been shown the door before it could get worse. Nobody threw him a going-away lunch. A couple of people signed a card, out of habit more than sentiment. Priya didn't sign it. She didn't feel the need to pretend. The thing about people like Marcus is they get away with it for a long time because most people don't want the confrontation. They'll let the small thefts slide, the little we instead of I, the quiet erasing of effort, because fighting it feels exhausting and petty. But eventually it catches up, especially when it happens in front of someone paying close enough attention to notice the gap between what a person says and what they actually understand. Denise Castellano didn't do Priya a favor out of kindness. She did it because she valued accuracy, and she recognized a fraud in real time. And Priya didn't win this by yelling in that conference room or making a scene. She won it by quietly building a case, telling the truth when asked directly, and letting the facts do what facts do when someone finally bothers to check them. So, if you've ever sat in a meeting and watched someone take credit for your work while you swallowed your anger and said nothing, you already know exactly how satisfying it feels when the truth finally gets its moment. If you liked this one, hit subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me what you would have done in that conference room the second Marcus opened his mouth. Would you have called him out on the spot or played the long game like Priya did? Let me know down below.